Broken-hearted and seeking escape from city life, Rachel Marin trades her art gallery job for a work exchange program at Foxglove Hollow Farm. There, she meets Cole Thatcher, a widowed farmer with his own painful past. As they work side by side, tending flowers and healing their wounds, Rachel must choose between returning to her ambitious ex-fiancé or embracing a simpler but more authentic life. Before we begin this story, comment below where you're watching from. Rachel Marin stood in her empty loft apartment, surrounded by cardboard boxes. At 28, she thought she had it all figured out. A good job at an art gallery, a beautiful place to live, and a fiancé who had promised her the world. But the world had crashed down around her 3 weeks ago, when David had dumped her at their engagement party for a younger gallery intern. The humiliation still stung, especially since he'd done it in front of all their friends and colleagues. "You're just not ambitious enough," he'd said, champagne glass in hand. "Melissa understands where I want to go in life." Rachel taped up the last box and looked around. There was nothing left for her here. She'd already deleted her social media accounts, unable to bear the pitying messages and the photos of David and Melissa already vacationing in Italy. Her phone rang and she picked it up. "Are you sure about this?" her friend Lisa asked. "Running away to some farm in the middle of nowhere seems extreme." "It's not running away," Rachel said, though part of her knew it was. "It's a work exchange program, 6 months of helping on the farm in exchange for room and board. I need to be somewhere real." "What does that even mean?" Rachel sighed. "It means I need to get my hands dirty instead of arranging pretty things for rich people. I need quiet, space to breathe." The next morning, Rachel boarded a bus with just 2 suitcases. As the city disappeared behind her, she felt a knot in her chest begin to loosen. 5 hours later, the bus dropped her off at a small station in the countryside. A middle-aged woman with silver-streaked hair was waiting for her. "You must be Rachel," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Doris. I help run things at Foxglove Hollow. Cole asked me to pick you up." "Cole?" Rachel asked, loading her suitcases into Doris's truck. "Cole Thatcher. He owns the farm. Doesn't talk much, but he's got a good heart." As they drove through rolling hills, Doris filled the silence with information. "We grow vegetables for the local markets, but our specialty is flowers. The previous owner, Cole's grandfather, started with just a small patch of land. Now we've got 20 acres. Cole took over 5 years ago when his grandfather passed." Rachel nodded, taking in the scenery. "It's beautiful here." "It is. Cole's put everything into this place, especially after he lost Mary." "Mary?" Doris's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "His wife. They were high school sweethearts. Cancer took her 3 years ago. She was only 29. Rachel felt a pang in her chest, and here she was, heartbroken over a man who hadn't deserved her tears. Foxglove Hollow came into view, a sprawling farm nestled between green hills. A large white farmhouse stood at the center, surrounded by barns and greenhouses. Fields of colorful flowers stretched out on one side, and neat rows of vegetables on the other. Doris showed Rachel to a small cottage near the main house. Here's where our seasonal workers stay. Bathrooms through there, kitchen small, but it works. There's a washer and dryer in the shed out back." "It's perfect," Rachel said, and meant it. The simple space was a far cry from her sleek city loft, but it felt honest somehow. "Get settled in. Dinner's at 6 in the main house. Cole likes everyone to eat together, though he doesn't always join us. The others will be there. Marco and his wife Lucia work here year-round, and there's another seasonal worker, Jasmine." After Doris left, Rachel unpacked her things and took a shower. The water pressure was weak, but the water was hot. She put on clean jeans and a simple t-shirt, then walked over to the main house. Dinner was a lively affair, with Lucia serving homemade lasagna and Marco telling stories about the farm. Jasmine, a college student studying agriculture, was full of enthusiasm. Cole never appeared. "He eats in his office most nights," Doris explained when she saw Rachel glancing at the empty chair at the head of the table. "Been that way since Mary passed?" Rachel nodded, understanding the need for solitude all too well. The next morning, she woke at dawn, ready for her first day of work. She pulled on the boots Doris had left for her. They were a size too big, but they'd do, and made her way to the main greenhouse where everyone was gathering. Marco was giving out assignments. Lucia and I will handle the vegetable fields today. Jasmine, you're on irrigation checks. Rachel, since it's your first day, you'll be planting bulbs in the east field. Doris will show you how. But before Doris could lead her away, a tall figure appeared in the doorway of the greenhouse. The man was in his early 30s with dark hair and sun-weathered skin. His serious face was handsome in a rugged way, and his eyes, a striking blue, seemed to hold a depth of sadness. "I'll take her," he said in a deep voice. Marco nodded. "Sure thing, Cole." So this was Cole Thatcher. Rachel felt suddenly nervous as she followed him out of the greenhouse and across the property to a field where crates of flower bulbs were waiting. "We're planting tulips today," Cole said, not looking at her. "Heirloom varieties. They need to be handled carefully." He demonstrated how to dig the holes and place the bulbs, his large hands surprisingly gentle with the delicate starts. Rachel watched carefully, trying to memorize every step. "Think you can handle it?" he asked. "Yes," she said more confidently than she felt. Cole nodded and walked away, leaving her alone with the crates of bulbs. Rachel took a deep breath and got to work. The morning passed quickly as she fell into a rhythm. Dig, place, cover, move on. Her back began to ache, but there was something satisfying about the simple physical labor. Around mid-morning, she reached for a new crate. As she lifted it, her oversized boots caused her to stumble. The crate tipped and bulbs scattered everywhere, right as Cole was walking back to check on her progress. "I'm so sorry," she gasped, dropping to her knees to gather them up. "I'll fix it." Cole stared at the mess, his face unreadable. "Those were heirloom tulips," he said flatly. Rachel waited for the anger, for the disappointment that would surely follow. It was her first day, and she'd already messed up. But instead, Cole knelt down beside her and started picking up bulbs. "It's all right," he said quietly. "Sometimes it takes dropping everything to find out what still grows." Rachel blinked in surprise. That was unexpectedly poetic from a man who barely seemed to speak. Cole continued gathering bulbs, his movements methodical. "You can still plant most of these. A few are damaged, but the rest will be fine." Together, they collected all the bulbs and sorted through them. When they were done, Cole stood up, brushing dirt from his knees. "Take your time," he said. "It's not about how fast you work, it's about doing it right." And then he walked away, leaving Rachel staring after him. Over the next few weeks, Rachel fell into the rhythm of farm life. She woke with the sun, worked until her muscles ached, and fell into a dreamless sleep each night. The physical exhaustion felt good, cleansing somehow. She rarely saw Cole, who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. He appeared when least expected, fixing a tractor, hauling supplies, or standing at the edge of a field, watching the sunset with a faraway look in his eyes. One morning, Rachel found herself assigned to the flower fields again. She'd been working, mostly in the greenhouses, so the change was welcome. As she was preparing planters for wildflower seeds, Doris approached. "You're working in Mary's garden today," she said softly. Rachel looked up. "Mary's garden?" Doris nodded. "That section over there, it was hers. She designed it, planted everything. Cole hasn't touched it since she died. Just enough maintenance to keep it from dying completely." Rachel looked over at the section Doris had indicated. Unlike the rest of the meticulously maintained farm, this area seemed wilder, less structured. Beautiful but sad somehow. "Maybe I should work somewhere else," Rachel suggested. Doris shook her head. "Cole specifically asked for you to work here, said you had a good touch with the flowers." Surprised and oddly touched, Rachel nodded. She spent the day carefully tending to Mary's garden, pulling weeds and adding fresh soil. As she worked, she felt a strange connection to the woman she'd never met. Another life cut short, another story unfinished. That evening, as the sun was setting, Rachel returned to the garden with a handful of wildflower seeds she'd found in the supply shed. On impulse, she scattered them in an empty patch of soil. "Just to see what happens," she murmured to herself. She didn't notice Cole watching from the edge of the field. His face softened in the golden light. The days turned into weeks. Spring deepened, and the farm burst with new life. Rachel found herself smiling more, laughing with Lucia and Jasmine, enjoying the simple meals they all shared, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, Cole began to change too. He still didn't say much, but sometimes he would join them for dinner. Occasionally, Rachel would find him waiting for her in the morning with a mug of tea, which they would drink together on the porch in comfortable silence as the sun rose. Then, one rainy afternoon, as Rachel was running from the greenhouse to her cottage, she saw Cole struggling to close the doors of the barn against the sudden storm. Without thinking, she ran to help him. Together, they pushed against the heavy doors as rain poured down. When they finally got them closed, they were both soaking wet and out of breath. Rachel looked at Cole, water dripping from her hair, and suddenly burst out laughing. For a moment, he just stared at her. Then, to her amazement, a smile broke across his face, transforming it completely. And in that moment, standing in a dark barn with rain drumming on the roof, Rachel felt something shift inside her, something she'd thought was broken beyond repair. "Come on," Cole said, still smiling. "Let's get you dried off before you catch cold." As they walked toward the main house side by side in the rain, Rachel realized that for the first time since arriving at Foxglove Hollow, she wasn't thinking about the past at all. She was thinking about tomorrow. The rain had passed, leaving the farm glistening in the morning sun. Rachel stood in Mary's garden, amazed at how quickly the wildflower seeds she'd planted were sprouting. Little green shoots pushed through the soil, reaching for the light. "They're growing," came a voice behind her. Rachel turned to find Cole, standing there, hands in his pockets, watching her with that intense gaze of his. "I wasn't sure they would," she admitted. "I just scattered them to see what would happen." "Sometimes that's all it takes," Cole said. "The right seeds in the right soil at the right time." There was something in his voice that made Rachel's heart beat faster. "Was he still talking about the flowers? I haven't thanked you," he said, taking a step closer. "For what you've done with this garden." "It was important to Mary," Rachel nodded. "Doris told me. I hope it's okay that I added something new." "It's more than okay." Cole looked out over the garden. Mary would have liked that. She always said gardens should change and grow, just like people. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "Would you like to join me for breakfast?" Cole asked suddenly. "I made pancakes," Rachel smiled. "I'd like that." As they walked toward the main house, Cole pointed out different areas of the farm, explaining his plans for each. It was the most she'd ever heard him speak at once. In the kitchen, the pancakes were waiting, slightly burned around the edges, but smelling wonderful. "I'm not much of a cook," Cole admitted as he poured maple syrup. "They're perfect," Rachel said, taking a bite. Over breakfast, Cole asked about her life in the city, listening intently as she told him about her job at the art gallery. "Do you miss it?" he asked. Rachel considered the question. "I miss some parts. I love art, being surrounded by beautiful things. But the rest, the politics, the fakeness, the constant pressure to be something I'm not, I don't miss that at all." Cole nodded. "What will you do when the 6 months are up?" The question caught Rachel off guard. She hadn't thought that far ahead. "I don't know," she admitted. "I can't go back to my old job. My ex-fiancé's new girlfriend works there now." Cole's eyebrows rose. "Ex-fiancé?" Rachel felt her cheeks flush. "David. He left me at our engagement party for a younger intern. Said I wasn't ambitious enough." Cole's face darkened. "Sounds like you're better off without him." "I am," Rachel said, surprised to find she truly meant it. "Coming here was the best decision I've ever made." Their eyes met across the table, and for a moment something electric passed between them. Then the kitchen door swung open, and Lucia bustled in with a basket of fresh eggs. "Oh, I didn't know anyone was in here," she said, glancing between them. With obvious curiosity. "I was just leaving," Cole said, standing up. "Thanks for the company, Rachel." After he left, Lucia raised an eyebrow at Rachel. "That's the first time I've seen him eat with anyone other than Doris in months." Rachel busied herself clearing the dishes. "We were just talking about the garden." Lucia hummed, a knowing smile on her face. "Just the garden." The weeks that followed brought Rachel and Cole closer together. They fell into a routine of sharing morning tea on the porch before the workday began. Sometimes they talked, Sometimes they simply sat in companionable silence. Either way, Rachel found herself looking forward to those quiet moments more than anything else. One evening, as Rachel was heading back to her cottage after dinner, Cole called her name. "I have something to show you," he said. "If you're not too tired." He led her to a small hill behind the main house, where a lone bench sat beneath an old oak tree. From there they could see the entire farm spread out below them, golden in the setting sun. "This is my thinking spot," Cole said as they sat down. "I come here when I need to clear my head." "It's beautiful," Rachel said, taking in the view. "Mary, and I used to come here to watch the stars come out," Cole said softly. It was her favorite place. Rachel felt honored that he would share this with her. "Thank you for bringing me here." Cole looked at her, something vulnerable in his eyes. "You remind me of her sometimes, not in how you look or act, but in how you make me feel, like I can breathe again." Rachel's heart swelled. She reached out and gently placed her hand over his. "I know what you mean," she said. "I came here thinking I just needed quiet, a place to lick my wounds, but it's been so much more than that." As the first stars appeared overhead, they sat together, hands touching, watching nightfall over Foxglove Hollow. The next morning, Rachel was surprised to find a small package waiting outside her cottage door. Inside was a book of poetry with a note for our morning tea. "See," Rachel smiled, tracing her fingers over his handwriting. Something was happening between them, something neither had expected, but both were beginning to welcome. That afternoon, while Rachel was working in the flower fields, Doris joined her. "He's different with you around," Doris said without preamble. Rachel looked up from the row she was weeding. "What do you mean?" "Cole. He smiles now, talks more. I haven't seen him this alive since before Mary got sick." "We're just friends," Rachel said, though even as the words left her mouth, she knew they weren't entirely true. Doris shook her head. "Friends, sure, but there's something more there, and you both know it." She patted Rachel's shoulder. "It's a good thing, honey. He deserves to be happy again, and so do you." That evening, Rachel found Cole in one of the greenhouses checking on seedlings. She held up the book of poetry he'd given her. "Thank you for this," she said. "It's beautiful." Cole nodded, a slight smile on his lips. "I thought you might like it." "Would you read some to me?" Rachel asked, holding out the book. Cole hesitated, then took it from her. He flipped through the pages until he found what he was looking for. In his deep, quiet voice, he read a poem about second chances and unexpected joy. When he finished, Rachel was blinking back tears. "That was beautiful," she whispered. Cole closed the book, his eyes never leaving hers. "Rachel, The greenhouse door banged open, and Marco appeared. "Cole, there's a problem with the irrigation system in the north field." Cole sighed. "I'll be right there." He handed the book back to Rachel. "To be continued," he said softly. Days passed, filled with work and quiet moments, stolen between responsibilities. The wildflowers in Mary's garden had begun to bloom, adding splashes of color. To the carefully designed beds, Rachel had started adding other touches as well, a small stone bench, wind chimes that tinkled in the breeze. One morning she arrived to find Cole already there, kneeling among the flowers. It was the first time she'd seen him actually working. "In this section of the garden, I thought it was time," he said when he saw her surprise. Mary wouldn't want it to stay frozen in time forever. Together, they worked side by side, planting and pruning. As they did, Cole began to tell Rachel stories about Mary, how they'd met in high school, their dreams for the farm, her battle with cancer. The hardest part wasn't losing her, he said, his hands gentle around a fragile stem. It was watching her lose pieces of herself day by day. By the end, she made me promise to keep living, to not let this place die with her. He looked around at the vibrant garden. "I kept the farm going, but I think I forgot the part about living. Until now." He reached out and touched Rachel's cheek, his fingers leaving a smudge of dirt. "You brought something back to this place. To me." Rachel leaned into his touch. "You've done the same for me." Their first kiss happened there, among the flowers Mary had planted and the wildflowers Rachel had sown, their hands dirty and their hearts full. That night, Rachel lay in bed, unable to sleep. Everything was changing, and for once, she welcomed Tice. She was falling for Cole, his quiet strength, his honesty, the way he really listened when she spoke. With David, it had been all flash and charm, pretty words that meant nothing. Cole was different. When he spoke, it mattered. The next few weeks were the happiest of Rachel's life. She and Cole grew closer each day, sharing meals, working together, and stealing kisses when they thought no one was looking. Though of course everyone noticed. "About time," Marco said with a grin when he caught them holding hands in the barn. Lucia and Doris exchanged knowing glances over dinner. Even Jasmine, the college student, teased Rachel good-naturedly. "You guys are like a Hallmark movie," she said. "City girl finds love on the farm." Rachel laughed, but the word struck a chord. She had come here running from the city, from heartbreak, from a life that no longer fit. Now she couldn't imagine going back. One evening, Cole took Rachel back to the bench on the hill. The farm looked different now, lush with summer growth, the flower fields a riot of color. "I want to ask you something," he said, taking her hands in his. "Your 6 months will be up in a few weeks." Rachel's heart skipped. She'd been avoiding thinking about that deadline. "I know it's too soon," Cole continued. "We haven't known each other that long. But I don't want you to leave." "I don't want to leave either," Rachel admitted. "Then stay," Cole said simply. "Stay here with me. We can figure out the rest as we go." Rachel felt tears well up. "Are you sure? I mean, what would I do here? I can't expect you to support me." Cole smiled. "Actually, I've been thinking about that. The farm's doing well, but we could do more. We've been talking about opening a farm store for years, selling flowers, produce, maybe some local crafts. You have experience in retail, in knowing what people want. You could run it." Rachel was touched that he'd thought so carefully about this. "You'd trust me with that?" "I trust you with everything," Cole said. He took a deep breath. "Rachel, I know this is fast, but I'm falling in love with you. When Mary died, I thought that part of me was gone forever, but you woke it up again." Rachel felt tears spill over. "I love you too," she whispered, "and yes, I'll stay." They sealed the promise with a kiss as the sun set over Foxglove Hollow, the fall. Next few days were a whirlwind as they began making plans. Cole cleared out a space in one of the smaller barns that could be converted into a store. Rachel started sketching designs, thinking about inventory, making lists of local artisans they could feature. Their evenings were spent on the porch swing, talking about the future. For the first time since arriving at the farm, Rachel called Lisa, her friend from the city. "You're staying?" Lisa asked, shocked. "For a farmer you've known for what, 3 months?" "When you know," Rachel said. He's real, Lisa. What we have is real." "If you're sure," Lisa said doubtfully. "Just don't rush into anything." After they hung up, Rachel wondered if her friend was right. Was she moving too fast, still on the rebound from David? But as she watched Cole across the yard, talking with Marco as they repaired a fence, she knew this was different. This wasn't about running away from pain. It was about running toward joy. That night, she slept in Cole's room for the first time, in the old farmhouse that would soon be their home together. "I'm thinking of repainting," Cole said as they lay in bed, moonlight spilling through the curtains. "Maybe light blue for the walls?" "I like that," Rachel said, snuggling closer to him. "And maybe new curtains." "Anything you want," Cole murmured, kissing her forehead. "This is your home now, too." The words filled Rachel with a happiness she'd never known before. The following Saturday, Rachel was in Mary's garden, though she'd begun to think of it as their garden now, when she heard a car coming up the driveway. Visitors weren't unusual. Locals often stopped by to buy fresh flowers or vegetables. But the sleek black BMW that pulled up wasn't a local farmer's vehicle. And the man who stepped out in his designer suit and perfectly styled hair was the last person Rachel expected to see at Foxglove Hollow: David. Her ex-fiancé walked toward her, looking out of place among the flowers with his polished shoes and city swagger. "Rachel," he said, flashing the charming smile that had once made her heart race, "you're a hard woman to find." Rachel stood frozen, dirt on her hands and knees, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. "What are you doing here, David?" He spread his hands. "I came to bring you home, of course. This little adventure of yours has gone on long enough, don't you think?" Rachel stared at him in disbelief. "Adventure? Is that what you think this is?" David looked around, taking in the farm with an expression of barely concealed disdain. "What else would you call it? Playing farmer for a few months to lick your wounds?" "I call it living," Rachel said, finding her voice. "I'm happy here, David." He sighed dramatically. "Look, I made a mistake, okay? Melissa was, well, let's just say it didn't work out. And I've missed you. The gallery hasn't been the same without you. Oh, you want me back because Melissa dumped you?" Rachel couldn't believe what she was hearing. "It's more than that," David insisted, stepping closer. "I've realized what I lost. And I've got great news. I've been offered the director position at the Hartman Gallery in New York. It's a huge opportunity and I want you with me." "Assistant director position? Your name on the door, twice your old salary." Rachel felt her world tilt. The Hartman Gallery was prestigious, exactly the kind of opportunity she'd dreamed of when she was still in the city. I can't," she said. But there was a hint of uncertainty in her voice that David pounced on. "Of course you can. This was never meant to be permanent, Rachel. You were meant for more than mud and silence." He gestured at the farm. "This isn't your world. You belong in galleries at openings, making connections with real artists." Before Rachel could respond, she heard footsteps and turned to see Cole approaching, his face wary. "Everything okay here?" he asked, coming to stand beside Rachel. "Fine," David said dismissively. "Just catching up with my fiancée." "Ex-fiancée," Rachel corrected sharply. Cole's expression darkened, but his voice remained calm. "I'm Cole Thatcher, and you are?" "David Mercer." "Rachel and I go way back." David gave Cole a once-over, taking in his worn jeans and work boots with obvious judgment. "I'm here to bring her home." Cole looked at Rachel, something vulnerable flashing in his eyes. "Rachel!" She wanted to reassure him, to tell David to leave, but the words stuck in her throat. The confidence she'd felt just hours ago wavered under the weight of her past. "I need to talk to David," she said finally. "Alone." Cole's face shuttered, but he nodded. "I'll be in the main house if you need me." He walked away, his shoulders stiff. As Rachel watched him go, David pressed his advantage. "See, you don't belong here. Come back with me, Rachel. I can give you the life you deserve, art, culture, real success." And standing there in the garden, with soil under her fingernails and doubt in her heart, Rachel felt herself waver. Rachel led David away from the garden and toward a small sitting area near the greenhouse. She needed time to think, to sort through the confusion his sudden appearance had caused. "You've got dirt on your face," David said, reaching out as if to wipe it away. Rachel stepped back. "It's a farm, David. Dirt is part of the deal." David shook his head. "This isn't you, Rachel. Look at yourself, worn clothes, messy hair, working with your hands like some laborer." "And what's wrong with that?" Rachel asked, crossing her arms. "I like the work I do here. It's honest." "Honest?" David laughed. "It's beneath you. You have a degree in art history. You were on your way to becoming someone in the art world." Rachel felt a flicker of doubt. There had been a time when that mattered to her. The gallery openings, the connections, the feeling of being part of something sophisticated and important. "The Hartman Gallery is a big deal," David continued, sensing her hesitation. "Think about it, your name on the door, a corner office overlooking Central Park, expense accounts for wining and dining artists. It's everything we used to talk about." "We?" Rachel asked. "Or you?" David waved a hand dismissively. "Same thing, we were a team, Rachel. We can be again." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I even brought this back." He opened it to reveal the engagement ring he'd given her a year ago. 3 carats of flawless diamond in a platinum setting. It had seemed so perfect then. Now it just looked cold and showy. "Keep it," Rachel said. "I don't want it." "Don't be hasty," David said, snapping the box closed. "Look, I get it, I hurt you, but we had something good together. And frankly, I'm concerned about you. Running away to play farm girl? It's not healthy, Rachel. Everyone's worried." "Who's everyone?" Lisa, for one. She's the one who told me where to find you. Rachel felt a stab of betrayal. She'd trusted Lisa. She's worried you're having some kind of breakdown, David continued. And looking at you now, I'm starting to think she might be right. Rachel flushed. I'm happier here than I ever was in the city. Are you? Or are you just hiding? David's voice softened to the persuasive tone he used when closing deals. I know you, Rachel. You're not cut out for this life. The novelty will wear off, and then what? You'll be stuck in the middle of nowhere with a man who probably hasn't read a book since high school. You don't know anything about Cole, Rachel snapped. I know his type, David said. Simple people leading simple lives, nothing wrong with that, but it's not for someone like you. You need stimulation, culture, growth. Despite her anger, his words found their target. Rachel had loved the intellectual side of her old life, the conversations about art and philosophy, the museum exhibitions, the feeling of being connected to a larger cultural world. Just come back to the city with me for a few days, David urged. See the gallery, meet the board. If you still want to come back to this, then fine. I'll drive you back myself. What's the harm in looking? Rachel hesitated. What was the harm? She'd been so sure about staying at Foxglove Hollow, about her feelings for Cole. But David's arrival had stirred up old insecurities, old dreams. I need to think about it, she said finally. David smiled, knowing he'd gained ground. Of course. Take all the time you need. I've booked a room at that little B&B in town. I'll be there until Sunday. He leaned in and kissed her cheek before she could stop him. I've missed you, Rachel. More than I realized. As he walked back to his car, Rachel remained seated, her thoughts in turmoil. The confidence she'd felt just hours ago had been replaced by confusion and doubt. When she finally made her way back to the main house, she found Cole in the kitchen, alone, staring into a cup of coffee. Hey, she said softly. He looked up, his face guarded. Hey, David's gone, she said, sitting across from him. Back to town. Cole nodded. So that's him, the ex? Yes, Rachel confirmed. He wants me to go back to the city with him. Cole's hands tightened around his mug. And what do you want? I don't know, Rachel admitted, the words painful to say aloud. A week ago I would have said I want to stay here with you. But now you're not sure, Cole finished for her, his voice flat. Rachel reached for his hand, but he pulled away. He's offering me a job, she explained. Assistant director at the Hartman Gallery. It's a huge opportunity. I see, Cole said. He stood up abruptly. I need to check on the North Field irrigation. Cole, please, Rachel said, standing too. Can we talk about this? What's there to talk about? Cole asked, his hurt evident despite his calm tone. I have a decision to make. I won't stand in your way. Before Rachel could respond, he walked out the door, leaving her alone in the kitchen. That night, Rachel couldn't sleep. She paced her small cottage, torn between two worlds, the life she'd planned before coming to Foxglove Hollow and the unexpected happiness she'd found here. David represented everything she'd once wanted: success, recognition, a life filled with art and culture. But Cole represented something she hadn't known she needed until she found it: honesty, depth, a love that didn't need to perform or impress. By morning, she still hadn't decided. She went through her chores mechanically, aware of Cole watching her, from a distance but never approaching. At lunch, Doris found her sitting alone in the barn. Trouble in paradise? The older woman asked, sitting beside her. Rachel sighed. David wants me to go back to the city. He's offering me a dream job. Ah, Doris nodded. And what does your heart say? My heart is confused, Rachel admitted. I love it here. I love Cole, but part of me wonders if I'm running away from who I really am. Doris was quiet for a moment. When Mary was sick near the end, she told Cole something I've never forgotten. She said, "The truest thing about us is what we choose when nothing is forcing our hand." Rachel considered this. What does that mean? It means that when life gets hard, when we're torn between different paths, the choice we make reveals who we truly are down deep. Doris patted Rachel's hand. You have a good heart, Rachel. Trust it to tell you what's real. That evening, Rachel finally gathered her courage and went to find Cole. He was in his office in the main house going over accounts. "Can we talk?" she asked from the doorway. Cole looked up, his eyes tired. "Of course." Rachel sat across from him. "I'm sorry about yesterday. David showing up caught me off guard." Cole nodded. "I understand." "Do you?" Rachel asked. "Because I'm not sure I do. I came here to escape, to find some peace after he humiliated me, and now he shows up offering me everything I thought I wanted, and I'm confused." "What exactly are you confused about?" Cole asked, his voice carefully neutral. "About whether I belong here," Rachel admitted. "Whether this life is really for me or if I'm just hiding from the real world." Cole's expression hardened. "This is the real world, Rachel. It might not have fancy galleries or expense accounts, but what we do here matters. And what we have, what I thought we had, that's real too." "I know," Rachel said, tears filling her eyes. "But what if it's not enough? What if 6 months from now I'm miserable because I gave up my career, my whole life?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. "I can't compete with the life he's offering you," he said finally. "I don't have money or connections or a corner office to give you. All I have is this farm and my heart. If that's not enough, then maybe you should go." "That's not fair," Rachel protested. "I'm just trying to be honest about my doubts." "I appreciate that," Cole said. "But I've already loved and lost once, Rachel. I can't do it again with someone who's got one foot out the door." His words stung, but Rachel couldn't deny the truth in them. She was holding back, afraid to fully commit to this new life. "I told David I'd give him an answer by Sunday," she said. "He wants me to at least go look at the gallery." Cole nodded, his face resigned. "Then you should go, see what he's offering. Make your choice with your eyes open." "You want me to go?" Rachel asked, hurt. "No," Cole said, his voice softening. "I want you to stay, more than anything. But I want you to stay because you're sure. Not because you're afraid of hurting me, or because you never explored your options." Rachel reached across the desk and took his hand. This time he didn't pull away. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," Cole said. "Enough to let you figure this out for yourself." The next morning, Rachel packed a small overnight bag. She'd called David and agreed to drive into the city with him to see the gallery and meet the board. Cole insisted on driving her to the B&B to meet David. They rode in silence, the weight of unspoken fears between them. When they arrived, David was waiting outside, looking polished and confident in a tailored suit. "I'll be back tomorrow night," Rachel told Cole as she got out of the truck. He nodded. "Take all the time you need." As David helped her with her bag, Cole rolled down the window. "Rachel?" She turned back. "Yes?" "Remember what I said about dropping everything to find out what still grows." With that, he drove away, leaving Rachel standing beside David, feeling like she was being torn in two. The drive to the city was long, with David filling the silence with stories about the gallery, the artists they were courting, the changes he planned to make as director. "You'll have your own assistant, of course," he said, "and a budget for acquisitions. We'll be focusing on emerging artists, real cutting-edge stuff." Rachel nodded, watching the countryside give way to suburbs, then to the familiar skyline of the city. It had been her home for years, but now it felt foreign, overwhelming. David had arranged for them to stay at a luxury hotel near the gallery. Separate rooms, he assured her, though his smile suggested he hoped that might change. "We'll have dinner with the board tonight," he said as they checked in. "Then tomorrow I'll show you the gallery, your office, everything." Rachel felt a headache building behind her eyes. "I think I need to rest first," she said. "It's been a long day." "Of course," David said smoothly. "I'll come by at 7. Alone in her hotel room, Rachel stood at the window looking out at the city she'd once loved. It was beautiful in its way, all glass and steel and endless motion, but it didn't make her heart sing the way Foxglove Hollow did, with its open skies and quiet rhythms. There were no stars visible here, no morning mist rising over fields, no birdsong to wake to. She thought of Cole, probably working in the fields or checking on the greenhouses. Was he thinking of her? Was he preparing himself for her not to return? The dinner with the board was exactly what David had promised. Impressive people, important conversations, excellent wine. They welcomed Rachel warmly, clearly impressed by her background and David's recommendation. "We're expanding our educational outreach," the board chair explained. "Your experience would be invaluable." "And of course there's the prestige," another board member added. "The Hartman name opens doors throughout the art world." By the end of the evening, Rachel had a formal offer letter, a salary that made her eyes widen, benefits, a signing bonus. Everything she'd once dreamed of. But as she lay in bed that night, she couldn't stop thinking about Cole, about the garden they'd tended together, about the simple joy of watching seeds they'd planted push up through the soil. The next morning, David took her to the gallery. It was even more impressive than he'd described. Spacious, modern, filled with light and important works of art. "And this," he said, opening a door with a flourish, "would be your office." It was beautiful. Windows overlooking the park, sleek furniture, everything designed to impress. "What do you think?" David asked, watching her carefully. Rachel ran her hand over the smooth desk. "It's perfect," she said softly. David smiled, triumphant. "I knew you'd see reason. We belong in this world, Rachel, not playing in the dirt." Something in his tone made Rachel look up sharply. "Is that how you see it?" "Well, it's true, isn't it?" David shrugged. "That farm was a nice vacation, a chance to clear your head. But this," he gestured around them, "this is where someone like you belongs." "Someone like me," Rachel repeated slowly. "And what am I like, David?" He smiled indulgently. "Talented, cultured, ambitious, too good for a simple life with a simple man." Rachel felt a clarity she hadn't expected. "Cole isn't simple," she said. "He's deep, complex. He just doesn't need to prove it all the time." David's smile faltered. "You're not seriously comparing us?" "I am," Rachel said, surprised by her own calm. "And do you know what I realized? When you talk, it's always about appearances, about what other people think. When Cole talks, it's about what matters. Growth, truth, caring for things that need care." "Rachel," David said, his voice hardening, "don't throw away this opportunity for some farmer you've known for a few months." "His name is Cole," Rachel said firmly, "and I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing what's real." David stared at her. "You're making a mistake." "No," Rachel said, shaking her head. "I finally understand. I didn't come to the farm to hide. I came to find myself, and I did." She handed the offer letter back to him. "I'm going home, David, to Foxglove Hollow." His face darkened with anger. "Fine, go play farmer. But don't come crawling back when you get tired of manure and manual labor." Rachel smiled. "Goodbye, David." She walked out of the gallery, feeling lighter than she had in days. She didn't need a taxi or a bus. She called Doris, who was delighted to hear from her. "Is Cole there?" Rachel asked over the phone. "He's been checking the road every hour," Doris chuckled. "That man is lost without you." "Tell him I'm coming home," Rachel said, "and I'm not leaving again." The next morning, as Doris's car turned onto the long driveway leading to Foxglove Hollow, Rachel felt her heart race with anticipation. The farm looked more beautiful than ever, bathed in golden morning light. And there, standing on the porch of the main house, was Cole. He came down the steps slowly, as if afraid to hope. Rachel didn't wait for the car to fully stop. She opened the door and ran to him, throwing herself into his arms. "You're back," he breathed, holding her tight. "I'm home," she corrected him. "For good." Cole pulled back to look at her face. "Are you sure? The gallery, the job, weren't real," Rachel said. "Not like this, not like us." Cole's smile was like sunrise breaking over the hills. "I was so afraid you wouldn't come back." "I almost didn't," Rachel admitted. "But then David said something about playing in the dirt, and I realized he'd never understand what I found here." "And what did you find?" Cole asked softly. Rachel smiled, tears of joy in her eyes. "Love, purpose, a place where I can grow. Where we can grow together." As they walked hand in hand toward Mary's garden, their garden now, Rachel knew with absolute certainty that she'd made the right choice. The wildflowers they'd planted together were in full bloom, a riot of color against the green. "I have something for you," Cole said, pulling a small object from his pocket. It wasn't a ring, It was a simple key on a leather cord. "To the farmhouse," he explained. "To our home, if you want it to be." Rachel closed her fingers around the key, feeling its solid weight. "I want that more than anything." They stood together among the flowers, planning their future. The farm store Rachel would open, the new crops they would plant, the life they would build together. And as the sun climbed higher in the sky, Rachel knew she'd never regret leaving behind the life she thought she wanted, for the life her heart had chosen. The summer heat gave way to the cool breezes of autumn. The flower fields at Foxglove Hollow were alive with fall blooms, chrysanthemums, dahlias, and asters, painting the landscape in warm oranges, deep purples, and fiery reds. Rachel stood in the doorway of what would soon be the farm store, clipboard in hand. The renovation was nearly complete. Fresh paint on the walls, new shelving units installed, a rustic counter made from reclaimed barnwood. Cole had done most of the carpentry himself, working evenings after his regular farm duties were done. "What do you think?" he asked, coming to stand beside her. "Will it be ready for the harvest festival?" Rachel leaned against him, enjoying the solid warmth of his body. "Almost. We just need to finish setting up the displays and bring in the inventory." The harvest festival was a tradition in the small farming community. People from surrounding towns would visit for hay rides, pumpkin picking, and to buy fresh produce and handcrafted goods. This year, the grand opening of the Foxglove Hollow farm store would be the main attraction. "I can't believe how much has changed in 6 months," Rachel said, looking around at what they'd built together. Cole wrapped an arm around her waist. "Good changes." Rachel smiled up at him. "The best." After her return from the city, their relationship had deepened. Rachel had moved into the farmhouse with Cole, and together they'd been working to make it their home. Fresh paint in the kitchen, new curtains in the bedroom, and photographs of both their families now hung in the living room. Rachel's art background had proven valuable for the farm. She'd redesigned their logo and created beautiful packaging for their products. The local restaurants that bought Cole's produce now also ordered Rachel's flower arrangements for their tables. "Did Lucia finish making those lavender sachets?" Rachel asked as they walked back to the main house. 3 dozen, Cole confirmed. And Marco's mother dropped off the jams and preserves this morning. The farm store would feature products from Foxglove Hollow as well as goods from other local producers, a community marketplace that Rachel had envisioned and Cole had enthusiastically supported. That evening, as they sat on the porch swing after dinner, watching the sunset paint the sky in pinks and golds, Cole seemed quiet, contemplative. "Everything okay?" Rachel asked, threading her fingers through his. He nodded. "Just thinking about how different things were a year ago. I was just going through the motions, keeping the farm running because I'd promised Mary I would, but not really living." Rachel rested her head on his shoulder. "And now?" A slow smile spread across his face. "Now I'm planning for the future again. Our future." Rachel's heart swelled. In the month since she'd chosen to stay, they'd fallen into a rhythm together, working side by side during the day, sharing quiet evenings, talking about everything and nothing. It wasn't always easy. Farm life had its challenges, but facing them together had only strengthened their bond. "I've been thinking," Cole said after a moment, "after the harvest festival, maybe we could take a trip, just a few days. The farm will be quieter then, and Doris and Marco can handle things." "Trip?" Rachel asked, surprised. "Where would we go?" Cole shrugged. "Anywhere you want. The ocean, maybe? You mentioned once that you missed seeing the water." Rachel was touched that he'd remembered such a small detail from one of their conversations. "That sounds wonderful." As darkness fell, they moved inside. Rachel made tea while Cole built a fire in the living room hearth. These simple domestic moments had become Rachel's favorite part of each day, the quiet intimacy of a shared life. "Oh, I almost forgot," Cole said, reaching into his pocket. "This came for you today." He handed her an envelope with a New York City return address. Rachel recognized the logo of the Hartman Gallery in the corner. "Probably just a formality," she said, setting it aside unopened. "Finalizing that, I declined the position." But later, after Cole had gone upstairs, curiosity got the better of her. Rachel opened the envelope and found a brief letter from the board chair, not David. While we were disappointed by your decision not to join us as assistant director, it read, we were impressed by your portfolio and design work. We would like to discuss the possibility of featuring some of your botanical photography in our upcoming Nature Reimagined exhibition. Rachel read the letter twice, stunned. The Hartman Gallery wanted to feature her work, the photographs she'd been taking around the farm, close-up images of flowers and plant life that she'd originally shot just for her own pleasure. She'd sent them on impulse when declining the job, not expecting anything to come of it. Now, one of the most prestigious galleries in the city was interested in her art. When she told Cole the news the next morning, his face lit up with pride. That's amazing, Rachel. I told you those photos were special. It would mean going back to the city for the opening, Rachel said cautiously, watching his reaction. Cole didn't hesitate. Of course, we'll go together. He took her hands in his. This doesn't have to be an either-or situation, you know. You can have your art and this life too. His understanding, his complete support, only confirmed what Rachel already knew. She'd made the right choice in staying. The days leading up to the Harvest Festival were a whirlwind of activity. The whole farm team worked long hours to prepare, harvesting pumpkins and gourds, arranging hay bales and cornstalks for decoration, setting up tables and tents for vendors. Rachel divided her time between finishing the farm store and preparing a shipment of photographs for the gallery. Cole built her a proper light box in one corner of the office so she could work on her images without having to leave the farm. 2 days before the festival, Rachel was arranging displays in the store when Doris came to find her. "There's someone here to see you," she said, her expression unreadable. Rachel followed her out to the farmhouse where Lisa, her friend from the city, was waiting on the porch. "Surprise," Lisa said, jumping up to hug her. "I thought I'd come check out this farm that stole you away from civilization." Rachel returned the hug, her initial shock giving way to genuine happiness at seeing her old friend. "Lisa, why didn't you tell me you were coming?" Lisa shrugged. "I wanted to see your face. Plus, I wasn't sure you'd say yes after, well, No, after she'd told David where to find Rachel. The betrayal still stung, but Rachel had come to understand that Lisa had thought she was helping. "It's okay," Rachel assured her. "I'm glad you're here. Let me show you around." As they walked the property, Lisa's initial skepticism visibly melted away. She admired the flower fields, exclaimed over the renovated farm store, and seemed impressed by the operation as a whole. "It's not what I expected," she admitted, as they sat at the kitchen table with iced tea. "It's beautiful here." "What did you expect?" Rachel asked. Lisa laughed. "I don't know. Something grimmer, I guess. More primitive." Rachel smiled. "We do have indoor plumbing, you know. And apparently a gorgeous man who looks at you like you hung the moon," Lisa added with a meaningful glance out the window, where Cole was visible working in the yard. "David didn't mention that part." "How is David?" Rachel asked, more out of politeness than interest. Lisa rolled her eyes. "Insufferable as usual. He didn't get the Hartman job, by the way. Word is they didn't like his management style." Rachel wasn't surprised. David had always been more concerned with appearances than substance. "I heard they're interested in your photography, though," Lisa continued. "The art world is buzzing about it. The farmer's wife with the camera, they're calling you." Rachel bristled at the label. "I'm not Cole's wife. Not yet, anyway," she thought, though they'd been talking about the future more and more lately. Lisa stayed for dinner, charming Doris with stories from the city and even making Cole laugh with her quick wit. As she was preparing to leave for her hotel in town, she pulled Rachel aside. "I owe you an apology," she said, "for telling David where to find you. I really thought you were just going through a phase that you needed rescuing." Rachel hugged her. "It's forgiven, and I'm glad you came to see for yourself." Lisa looked around the farm, now bathed in twilight. "I get it now. Why you stayed. It isn't just Cole, though he's clearly crazy about you. It's this whole life you've built. You should stay for the festival," Rachel suggested. "It's the day after tomorrow." Lisa brightened. "Really? I'd love that." As Lisa drove away, Cole came to stand beside Rachel on the porch. "She's not what I expected," he admitted. Rachel laughed. "What did you expect? Someone more like David, I guess." Rachel took his hand. "Lisa was always the real deal, even when I was lost in that superficial world. I'm glad you got to meet her." That night, as they prepared for bed, Cole seemed distracted, almost nervous. "Everything okay?" Rachel asked, sliding under the covers beside him. "Better than okay," he said. "I've just been thinking a lot about the future." "Oh?" Rachel propped herself up on one elbow. "What about it?" Cole reached over to the bedside table and opened the drawer. "I was going to wait until after the festival, but with Lisa here and your photos going to the gallery, it feels like the right time." He pulled out a small wooden box and held it out to her. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. "I'm not great with words," Cole said softly, "but I know what I want, what I need. It's you, Rachel. It's been you since you dropped those tulip bulbs at my feet that first day." Rachel opened the box with trembling fingers. Inside wasn't a traditional diamond ring, but a simple band of silver with a small piece of amber set in it. Suspended in the amber was a tiny wildflower, the same kind she'd scattered in Mary's garden. "It's beautiful," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Cole took her hand. "Mary taught me that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about choosing each other every day, through all kinds of weather." He met her eyes. "I choose you, Rachel. Will you choose me, too? Will you marry me?" "Yes," Rachel said without hesitation. "Yes, Cole, I choose you today and every day." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and they sealed the promise with a kiss. The day of the harvest festival dawned crisp and clear, perfect autumn weather. Rachel woke early, her new ring catching the morning light as she stretched. Beside her, Cole was already awake, watching her with a smile. "Morning, fiancé," he said, and the words sent a thrill through her. "Morning, fiancé," she replied, leaning over to kiss him. The farm was transformed for the festival. Colorful banners hung from fences, tents dotted the fields, and the sweet smell of apple cider and cinnamon donuts filled the air. Local vendors had set up booths selling crafts, food, and fall decorations. At the center of it all was the newly opened Foxglove Hollow farm store, with Rachel and Cole cutting a ribbon to officially welcome the community inside. Lisa stood nearby, clapping enthusiastically and taking photos. "For your gallery show," she explained with a wink. As the day progressed, Rachel was overwhelmed by the warm reception from the community. People she'd come to know over the past months congratulated her and Cole on both the store and their engagement. The products they'd worked so hard to prepare, bouquets of dried flowers, jars of honey from the farm's beehives, sachets of lavender, baskets of fresh produce, sold steadily. In the afternoon, Rachel took a break to walk around the festival with Lisa. "I can't believe the turnout," Lisa said, gesturing to the crowds. "There must be hundreds of people here." Rachel nodded, proud of what they'd accomplished. "It's always a big event, but this year is special." They stopped to watch children playing in a small pumpkin patch, their faces bright with excitement as they searched for the perfect jack-o'-lantern candidate. "So," Lisa said with a sly smile, "when's the wedding?" Rachel laughed. "We just got engaged last night, but we're thinking spring when the apple orchard is in bloom." Lisa squeezed her arm. "I'm so happy for you, Rachel, and I have to admit, I was wrong about all of this. You belong here." As the sun began to set, the festival took on a magical quality. String lights twinkled overhead, a local band played folk music on a small stage, and people gathered around fire pits to roast marshmallows. Rachel found Cole talking with Marco near the cider press. When he saw her, his face lit up in a way that still made her heart skip. "There you are," he said, taking her hand. "I was just about to come find you. There's something I want to show you." He led her away from the crowds toward the hill with the bench under the oak tree, their special spot. As they climbed the path, Rachel noticed something different. The old bench had been replaced with a new one, sturdier and more elegant, with intricate carvings along its back. "Did you make this?" she asked, running her fingers over the detailed work. Cole nodded. "Do you like it?" "It's beautiful," Rachel said sincerely. "What are these carvings?" "Look closer," Cole encouraged, as the last rays of sunlight filtered through. The leaves, Rachel could make out the designs: tulips, wildflowers, and in the center, two intertwined trees growing from the same roots. "That's us," Cole explained softly. Growing together, Rachel felt tears spring to her eyes. "It's perfect." They sat on the bench, looking out over Foxglove Hollow. From this vantage point, they could see the whole farm spread out below them, the fields they tended, the greenhouses gleaming in the twilight, the farmhouse that had become their home. The festival lights twinkled in the growing darkness, and the sounds of music and laughter drifted up to them. A year ago, "I never could have imagined this," Rachel said, leaning against Cole's solid warmth. "What, running a farm store?" he teased. She laughed. "Any of it. Being here, finding you, finding myself." Cole put his arm around her. "Do you ever miss it? The city? Your old life?" Rachel considered the question. "I miss certain things, museums, concerts, the energy of it. But I can still have those things sometimes. What I have here with you is worth so much more." "Even though I'm just a simple man?" Cole asked, a hint of David's words echoing between them. Rachel turned to face him. "You are many things, Cole Thatcher, but simple isn't one of them. You're deep and kind and wise and strong." She placed her hand over his heart. "And you're mine. Always," he promised, kissing her softly. As night fully fell and stars appeared overhead, they stayed on the bench, planning their wedding, their future, the life they would build together at Foxglove Hollow. Later, as they walked hand in hand back down the hill to rejoin the festival, Rachel spotted a familiar black BMW pulling into the farm's entrance. "Is that—" Cole began, tensing beside her. Rachel squeezed his hand. "Yes, but it doesn't matter." And she found that it truly didn't. David stepped out of his car, looking as polished and out of place as he had months before. He scanned the crowd, clearly searching for someone. "I should go talk to him," Rachel said. "Send him away before he causes a scene." Cole nodded. "Want me to come with you?" Rachel shook her head. "No, I need to do this alone. I'll meet you back at the store." She made her way through the festival goers, stopping briefly to accept congratulations and compliments on the store from neighbors. By the time she reached David, he was standing awkwardly by his car, looking distinctly uncomfortable amid the hay bales and pumpkins. "Rachel," he said when he saw her. "You're a hard woman to find." Rachel couldn't help but smile at the echo of his words from his last visit. "What are you doing here, David?" He straightened his designer jacket. "I heard about your photography being selected for the Hartman exhibition. I wanted to congratulate you in person." Rachel raised an eyebrow, not quite believing him. "Thank you, but you could have called," David sighed. "Fine. I also heard you got engaged to the farmer. I wanted to make sure you weren't making a mistake." Rachel held up her hand, the amber ring catching the festival lights. "Does this look like a mistake to you?" David studied her face. "You've changed." "I've grown," Rachel corrected him. "There's a difference." For a moment they stood in silence, the sounds of the festival continuing around them. Finally David spoke again. "I didn't get the Hartman job." "I heard," Rachel said. "I'm sorry." He shrugged. "It's fine. There are other galleries, better ones." But his voice lacked conviction. Rachel felt an unexpected wave of compassion for her ex-fiancé. He was still chasing appearances, still trying to impress. He hadn't learned what she had, that the truest things were often the simplest. "David," she said gently, "what do you really want? Not what looks good, not what you think you should want. What makes you happy?" He seemed startled by the question. I don't know." "That's the first step," Rachel said. "Figuring that out." David looked around at the festival, at the farm, at Rachel with her dirt-smudged jeans and glowing face. "You really are happy here, aren't you? It wasn't just a phase." "I really am," Rachel confirmed. "I found what I was looking for, even though I didn't know I was looking for it." David nodded slowly. "Well, I should let you get back to your harvest festival." "You could stay," Rachel offered, surprising herself. "There's great food, music. You might actually enjoy it." David gave a small laugh. "I think that might be a bit much for everyone involved, but thank you." He hesitated, then added, "Your photography was always good, you know. I should have encouraged it more." It was the closest thing to a genuine compliment he'd ever given. Hers. "Thank you," Rachel said sincerely. As David got back into his car, Rachel felt the final threads of her old life loosening. There was no anger anymore, no hurt, just a quiet certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. She watched his car disappear down the driveway, then turned back to the festival, to the life she'd chosen. Cole was waiting for her near the farm store, his face a question. "Everything okay?" he asked as she reached him. Rachel smiled, taking his hand. "Everything is perfect." And it was. The store was thriving, filled with customers admiring their products. Lisa was chatting animatedly with Doris by the cider press. Marco and Lucia were dancing to the band's music, while Jasmine helped children decorate pumpkins. This was her world now, real and rich and full of genuine connections, and at the center of it all was Cole, the man who had taught her that sometimes it takes dropping everything to find out what still grows. As evening deepened into night, the festival began to wind down. Vendors packed up their wares, families collected sleepy children, and the band played their final songs. Cole found Rachel in the farm store, where she was tallying up the day's sales. "Ready to head home?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her. From behind. Home. The word filled Rachel with warmth. She turned in his embrace, looking up at the face she'd come to love so deeply. "Yes," she said. "Let's go home." Hand in hand, they walked through the quieting festival grounds toward the farmhouse that had become their sanctuary. The harvest moon hung low in the sky, casting everything in a gentle silver light. At the edge of what had once been Mary's garden, now flourishing with a mix of her careful plantings and Rachel's wild additions, they paused, looking out over what they'd created together. "Do you know what I was thinking about today?" Cole asked. "That first morning when you spilled the tulip bulbs," Rachel laughed. "I was so embarrassed. I thought you were going to fire me on the spot." "I almost did," Cole admitted. "But then you looked at me with those determined eyes and I thought, here's someone who doesn't give up easily." "I'm glad you saw that in me," Rachel said, "even when I didn't see it in myself." They continued toward the house, where lights glowed warmly in the windows. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new work, new joy. But tonight, in this moment, Rachel knew with absolute certainty that she had found her place in the world. It wasn't in a city gallery or a corner office with her name on the door. It was here, in this quiet corner of the world, with a man who spoke rarely but meant every word, on a farm where love had taken root and bloomed in unexpected ways. As they reached the porch, Cole stopped and turned to her, framed in the golden light spilling from the windows. "Welcome home, Rachel," he said softly, and in those 3 simple words was everything she'd ever wanted. The end.